everybody. This is Brenda Green with the Be Strong Group, and I'm so glad for you to join us on our next Tuesday chat. Uh, this is a nonprofit founded in honor of my son, Braden. My husband and I founded. He has sickle cell disease, and we wanted to use this opportunity to share about different topics that are important to those with sickle cell disease, also their caregivers. And in actuality, a lot of the topics that we've been discussing lately have been applicable and important to a lot of our listeners. So we are happy that you're joining us. We're happy that you're on this journey with us to learn more about sickle cell disease and the things that are important to our community. And tonight is no different. We have a very special guest, and I am so honored to be in the advocacy realm with her. She is a sickle cell warrior, and I'm just so glad that she's here to talk to us about her amazing story. And I know a lot of you who've been listening and following us. I said if you don't know a sickle cell warrior, you should, because there's some amazing people. And Teonna Woolford has a very, very powerful story, and she's joining us tonight. And I would like to welcome her. Hey, Teonna.
Hey, thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Thank you for joining us. And you guys, I know I mentioned Teonna, she's a sickle cell warrior. She's going to share more about herself, but she's also founder and CEO of a very new nonprofit called the Sickle Cell Reproductive Health Education Directive. Um, I just have to have her talk more about that amazing organization that you guys are making major strides in the community, and will impact so many warriors. So I won't jump the gun. Teonna, can you just say hi to our listeners and then just share what you want to share um, about yourself personally?
No, absolutely. Thank you for the opportunity. So, hello, everyone. I am Teonna Woolford. I am a 30-year-old sickle cell warrior. I'm born with genotype SS. Growing up, I always say that I did relatively well compared to a lot of the other children with sickle cell that I would see in my hematology clinic. I would get admitted once or twice a year, and it would be from acute chest syndrome. And then when I hit puberty, that's when things really started spiraling out of control. So by the time I was in my senior year of high school, I had bilateral hip replacements, transfusion reaction, one that sent me into acute liver failure, and I went to this like predominantly white school. They were unapologetic about the fact that they didn't know anyone or anything about sickle cell. And so that was when I really got introduced to the burden of having to shoulder the responsibility of being in pain, being fatigued, but also having that responsibility to educate and advocate and kind of fight. And I think that's when the passion to like raise awareness and affect change was ignited. And, it's amazing. I always say that I feel like, just God is in everything, because my mother, she did a research project on sickle cell in the fifth grade and did her nursing dissertation on sickle cell. All of this before she even thought of having a child with it. And like so many, we've talked and it was similar. My mother was familiar, but my father swore up and down that he didn't have sickle cell trait. So diagnosis did come as a shock, but I'm thankful that I was born into a family who was prepared, and they never let me use sickle cell as a crutch. And they kind of prepared me like, you are going to have to do things differently, but you can do anything you want to do. You just might have to make adjustments. And I think that it's them instilling that in me in an early age that's kind of had a lot to do with who I am today. So that's kind of like me in a nutshell.
Oh, That's a wonderful you in a nutshell. Thank you for sharing that. And I mean, even in that, and talking about, your preparation, your village, your support system, and how, they were prepared for your journey because they knew. Um, but yet here you are in school and you're faced with some challenges that triggered the sickle cell challenges by puberty, and you had to educate people who did not know, and that put you in a position of being an advocate for yourself. um, can you just share some did that did you use that as your motivation, as your confidence builder in becoming an advocate by having to explain to the people you were around?
Yeah, absolutely. And it was an uphill battle. Like when I tell you that the reception was not good from my peers, it was excellent. My peers wanted to know, why are you missing out? Like, we miss you here. What's going on? But the administrators, the teachers, I mean, this is an exclusive school. My mom at the time, single mom, making all kinds of sacrifices to pay for this private school education. And the administrators and teachers would have the audacity to say things like, we just wish you had cancer, because then at least we would know how to prepare when you be out for treatment. But sickle cell is so unpredictable. Maybe you should go to a public school because they have more
Oh,
resources
wow.
than we do.
Oh,
So it was difficult. And I remember it was literally like a month before my senior graduation. And I was like, wow, I don't feel like I've had the impact that I needed to have. Everybody's asking me questions. They still don't understand what it's like. So with that month, I planned this, what I thought would be a small event where I had my hematologist for the medical perspective and I had my family for the caregiver's perspective. And it was honestly an incredible encounter. When I tell you that they canceled field trips so that students could be there, so that teachers could be there. It was my senior year. I had my first grade, second grade teacher attending. People's parents were there. I got Subway because they love some Subway. They like catered it for free because they loved my story. And when I tell you, it was standing room only. Like they literally had to move a wall to expand it. That's how many people were interested. And I remember making a joke at the very end and saying like, wow, I could really see myself doing this. Like I could be the face of sickle cell one day. And, just having no idea where this would take me. So yeah, that
wow. And you were a senior in high school, right?
senior in high school, yeah.
I mean, so and look at you now. Look at you now. You are the founder and CEO of this new nonprofit. And I know we skipped the whole gap because I could have gone there. The past couple of Tuesday chats, we actually had sickle cell warriors, adult warriors on, kind of sharing their experiences. Um, but but maybe we'll have you back, and we won't go there right now. But tell us, tell us about this new organization and what was your inspiration behind finding it?
Okay, well, like you said, it is the Sickle Cell Reproductive Health Education Directive. We went back and forth for a very long time trying to figure out an appropriate name. We needed sickle cell and we needed reproductive health because it's the only organization to be in that space. So that made it long. So we're happy to go by SC Red for short.
Yes, yes.
Very cute, very catchy, easy to remember. So basically, our mission is to advocate for high quality reproductive health care. We want to see that reproductive health care is implemented into standard of care, starting in the pediatric space. I've already gotten some flack. People think that all I'm trying to do is get everyone pregnant. And that's not true. Reproductive health touches everyone. Like I said earlier, things started with me when I hit puberty. It wasn't until I founded this organization that I reflected and realized like I did deal with delayed puberty. So we're addressing these issues across the lifespan. You hear about adults, depression, isolation, but that isolation can actually start in adolescence from delayed puberty because you don't look like everybody else in the locker room.
Right.
So it's everything from hormones to fertility to pregnancy to priapism, menopause. It's a huge undertaking. So we have some education initiatives, some support, financial and mental, emotional, and a lot of like education and awareness that we're doing in 2022. The inspiration. So I still get to talk about my experience because that's the whole inspiration has to do with my experience. 11 years ago, I had a bone marrow transplant. And I remember being so defeated and just ready to be cured. So I was pretty much willing to go through anything. I just knew I didn't want to be infertile. And I knew that chemo and radiation could do that. And when I expressed that to the doctor, he was like, oh, well, with all your complications, you're probably already infertile. So don't even worry about it.
Wow.
Already depressed. So I go home, I did a Google search because the cost of egg freezing is astronomical. Insurance is not going to cover it. 10,000 plus without the medications included. So I was looking for like education and even some financial grants that would be able to help me shoulder that cost. And there was a lot of foundations that give away grants, but you had to have a diagnosis of cancer.
Wow.
And so fast forward to last year, my hematologist, and who is now one of my co-founders, she's one of the few to actively study fertility and sickle cell, fertility and hydroxyurea. So she called me after we had tested my hormone levels, and she was like, "Girl, it's dismal. We gotta freeze your eggs." And I did the same Google search that I had done 11 years ago, and it was the same thing. Very disturbing to see there was still nothing out here. So I thought, like, okay, well, I'm gonna just start a little foundation. I'm gonna give away some grants and call it a day. And not even just for warriors of curative therapies, because we're learning that disease progression, iron overload therapies can impact fertility. So she was like, but yeah, that's great, but there's a social reproductive justice issue here too, because insurance should be covering this. So let's change laws. And then hooking up with one of my longtime mentors, Dr. Kim Smith Whitley, that's how she that's how our mission expanded, because she was like, well, you can't address fertility without addressing puberty, without addressing lack of access to care for pregnant women. And then my board chair, Amara Zaidi, like, that T, have you seen what the guys are going through with priapism?
Mhm.
Like, you got, this is huge. It touches everyone. We got to do something. And so we've only been up and running for like a year. And that year has really just been mission, strategic planning, infrastructure. I'm really excited. We have some incredible initiatives that you're a part of that we're launching in 2022. So I think it's going to be a really good year for us.
It really is. And you touched on so much with the mission that it covers. And to be honest, Teonna, initially when I heard it, I was thinking, because I heard your story for the first time, and I hope I'm not wrong, in 2017
Oh,
at the convention. Yes. So, I mean, I remember, so when I started hearing about the nonprofit, I immediately thought, okay, it's for girls, reproductive. And is it doesn't. Puberty, even a thing with my son, puberty is delayed and can be delayed in those with sickle cell disease. So, and that takes a toll.
it definitely.
That's so, you have the peer pressure. So, you guys, you're listening. You have to follow. You have to follow Teonna, and we're going to give her contact information because this is huge. This is major because it's impacting not just women, not just men, grown men. It's children. I mean, this is something that starts from, like you said, from early age up until adult age. So this is huge, Teonna. This is huge. Um,
It is huge.
yeah. Yeah, and I don't know if the one part of the story that got me was saying when you were looking into researching about freezing your eggs, saving your eggs, and there wasn't anything out there to help. I mean, what did that make you think? I mean, I know it motivated you into wanting to make a change, but how did you feel? Because I know you probably wanted, you had goals of getting married, having a family, and things like that. How did you feel when you're faced with wanting a life saving or a bone marrow transplant, and then wanting to also have a future of raising a family? Can you touch on that a little bit, if you don't mind?
Yeah, no, thank you for the question. It has been more devastating than I can imagine. It was devastating at 19, but now at 30, when there is someone special in my life and we're having these conversations, it's like even more devastating, I think. And, you know, at 19, I remember the conversation was kind of like, if you keep going like this, you're going to die. Children are not even going to be an option. So let's just do this transplant, change your life, keep you alive. You can adopt. And I remember kind of reconciling in my own head, like, okay, well, maybe it's a fair trade off. If I'm cured from this debilitating illness and give up the right to have or the opportunity to have biological children. But what I'm feeling and learning at age 30 is that it's not a fair trade off. I mean, here I am. I still have sickle cell. I did not get cured. So still living with the disease and infertile. But even if I was cured, I think about the people that are cured and don't have this opportunity. It's not a fair trade off, especially when
Right.
you look at the oncology community and you see they have access to this, not just through philanthropy, but also through legislation. So it's not a fair trade off. And what gets me is the fact that those policies and that funding is in place. People know that's not a fair trade off,
Right.
right? But of course, sickle cell is the poster child for inequity and disparity. And so that's what this is. And honestly, the whole thing has really, it has been disappointing, but it's also presented not only this organization, but the whole sickle cell community an opportunity to kind of revision sickle cell and to raise our standards. Because I think that for so long, the focus and the priority has had to be on survival. For so long, we weren't living into adulthood, but now we are, right? And so it's time to living, surviving, that's great, but it's not enough. Like we can't settle for that anymore. We need to be having conversations about our whole lives and thriving with sickle cell. And so this organization, this mission has really given me, my team, policymakers, all these different stakeholders the chance to say, we really do need to kind of revision how we see individuals living with sickle cell disease. They're whole and they're viable and just like everybody else.
Right.
And we've already run into some pushback where people are like, well, I don't know why you guys are going so hard after this. Like, you're too sick and you're too poor to even be having conversations about children. And it's like, the audacity. So it's just really opened my eyes to the fact that there's a lot of disparities, and with all these advances in research, these studies, I'm learning that there is a huge sense of urgency. I can't even tell you the number of calls that I've gotten since I've started this organization from women and men learning that they have all these issues with infertility. And so, huge sense of urgency. And I think that God's timing is everything. If I had started this 5 years ago, I don't think it would have taken off the way that it has. But I think the country is more primed to have conversations about inequity, about disparities, and also when you look at things like the Black maternal health crisis. So we've really been able to attach ourselves to issues even outside of sickle cell.
Hmm. Okay. And and it's an honor for me to be a part of this, to be a part of the discussion. I am so happy to have connected with you and to have met you as well. It's a very important initiative, and you have a lot of them. Your mission covers a lot of things, and it's time for this is you guys that are listening. We have Teonna Woolford on here. She's a sickle cell warrior, as well as a founder and CEO of the Sickle Cell Reproductive Health Education Directive. And And, the information we are sharing is a part of, how we want to do. We want to educate, advocate, and empower our community. So you have to follow her. You have to follow her organization, because not only should this information be shared by caregivers. I'm a caregiver, so I have I'm vested in this, because I'm raising someone with sickle cell disease. Not only should this be spread by warriors, but those of us in our village, in our team, those of you who are listening, who may follow us on a regular, know of our story. But it's important that you join us in this initiative too, in spreading awareness. So we need you to help share this information as well. Teonna, I did have. I know you touched on some initiative. You said some initiatives that I am a part of. Is there anything you can share? I know you're making some new announcements soon, but is there any particular initiative you want to share about? Give us a peek.
Well, okay. Like as of this week, I've already found out that we have secured funding from multiple entities. So we are going to be having funding for fertility preservation, which is something that people thought was a long shot, maybe 5 years off, but it's happening in 2022. But as far as programs and initiatives go, we kind of broke it down into like education, advocacy, support, awareness. So it really starts with awareness because, like I said, reproductive health doesn't really get a nod. And we're trying to kind of normalize the conversations, take the stigma, take the taboo, like take it out. And so the first thing we're launching in February is a storytelling initiative, a changing the narrative type of thing. And I'm really excited about it. I'm sure a lot of people are familiar with Dr. Wanda Witten Sherney. Her mother has done groundbreaking work in reproductive health, particularly with Planned Parenthood. So she's our first story for our storytelling series, and we're going to be interviewing her, learning from her, learning about her work. And that's what it is. You'll be hearing from warriors and caregivers with different reproductive health experiences. Like I'm going to have a panel of pregnant women. You just get to hear about some of the things that they've been through. But then we're going to be inviting in other reproductive health organizations outside of sickle cell disease. And I'm excited about that because for so long, we've just been isolated. But this reproductive health, I mean, it's not just touches every sickle cell warrior, it literally touches every human being. So being able to bring other people to the table and see that we do have things in common. So that's one with the storytelling. Two is the fireside chats, and I'm so excited about that because it's another move to not only normalize conversations, but to provide support for each other and learn from each other. And so I didn't want to do like a support group. I feel like when you think of a support group, everybody's like in a circle crying. So, but it's still a way of like supporting and learning. So the fireside chats, and we have a men's only, a women's only, caregivers, which you're one of the moderators, and thank you for that. And then the one for the LGBTQ community. And I'm excited about that because the takeaways, the conclusions, we're literally going to be able to use that in 2023 to shape our education curricula, which that's my last thing. We're going to be having courses like master classes on reproductive health. And I've got some amazing content experts, not just doctors, but also warriors who are going to be speaking on these various topics. So, of course, it's going to be a free course for warriors and caregivers that we're going to launch. And we also going to do it for providers because we would hate to empower the patients and send them out to doctors who aren't even prepared to take care of them. So that's what we're doing. And then we have like some broader things that we're going to be doing in partnership with some other organizations, like webinars on advocacy and women's health and Black maternal health crisis. And then we're going to be doing a huge social media campaign to kind of help what I was saying about the fact that we live whole lives. And so there'll be this thing where we're just capturing warriors in everyday situations. Like, oh, we're not just always sick and in the bed, like laid up. We do things like cook, take care of our children. So that's kind of our agenda. And I already know that in 2024, we're going to be having like a hybrid conference, and it's going to be groundbreaking, like literally making history. There's never been a conference just on reproductive health issues
Right.
in sickle cell. So we gonna be really busy.
Well, yeah, I hear it. And you're touching, I mean, the way you're breaking down your storytelling, your fireside chats, that conversation. And one thing I know when in the beginning of our nonprofit, we were talking, I would listen to adult warriors and I was like, why haven't I ever heard your story? And it's so powerful. From the person telling the story, it's empowering, and from the person listening, it's the ability to well, hear, understand, comprehend, relate in ways,
Yeah,
and be more empathetic. And that's
yes,
the way to get the word across, to spread awareness. And then I'm so ready for all of this. I am so ready
I'm
for all of this.
ready. I'm ready. So I'm excited. And honestly, I cannot, get on any platform and not say this. Another huge reason that this organization has taken off is because of the sickle cell community. Like, I
Mm.
remember sharing just a vision a year ago, and I must have gotten 500 comments. My phone was blowing up. And so, just the support, everybody's always commenting on how I have this amazing team, and I do, but it just speaks to how beautiful this community is, and the fact that we recognize that we deserve better. And really, I mean, seriously, because of the community, like people like you who have been able to bring in and get buy-in and support, to pull in. So I'm just really grateful for the support.
Yeah, and we're going to support because we recognize that it is important. And I know we've been using this phrase, "We're stronger together," and we can do some amazing things. I know we have a question in the chat, but I had another question um, that we had. You've spoken to some very important people in your journey that I read. One is our former First Lady Michelle Obama, and the late Congressman John Lewis. Um, Tell us about, do you want to share about that experience, how you channeled the confidence to even have a conversation? Sometimes, we can be a little intimidated by some people, but tell us how that conversation went or that experience went for you.
Yeah. So when I had the opportunity to meet with First Lady Michelle Obama, and I actually got to go 3 times, I met her husband too.
Ooh,
And it was, it just, even looking back on how things have been so divinely orchestrated, because it actually came up because I got a Make a Wish. And I had applied for Make a Wish at like 13, and they rejected me. They were like, she's not sick enough. So then, unfortunately at 17 and a half, I had been through so much, and I did qualify as sick enough. And it was amazing because it was literally like 3 weeks before my 18th birthday. Once you turn 18, you don't qualify. My social worker was like, we got to get you in for a wish. And everybody was like, so what are you going to do? Like, you want to go to Disney? Like, what are you going to do? And I was like, because I can go to Disney on my own. Like, if it's Make a Wish, I'm going to ask for something outlandish. So I remember them coming to my house and interviewing me and interviewing my family. And they were like, okay, 3 wishes, like rank them in order. What do you want? And I was like, oh, meet Michelle Obama, and get me a horse. Because I knew they weren't going to get me a horse. So you're going to have to get me to Michelle Obama. And I
right.
remember, like, less than a month after I asked that, I get this phone call, and it was Make a Wish. And they were like, you're in. And at first they were like, we got it, so you can take 2 people with you. But then I was like, I can't leave. Like my support system for so long, it's been my mother and it's been my grandparents. So I was like, I need to take three people. Like my grandmother just gotta come. And the next day they were like, oh, we told the first lady she wants your grandmother to come. And it was the day of my grandfather's birthday. I'll never forget. Like my
Oh,
grandfather means everything to me. I'm about to cry. He
oh,
means everything to me. And like I didn't really have my biological father in my life, so my grandfather is my dad. And so being able to like the first thing that Mrs. Obama did when she came into the room was acknowledge his birthday. And so
oh,
that was an experience that I'll never forget. And this was I was young. Like I don't think I was even going around calling myself an advocate. I just knew that I had a passion to raise awareness. And I was like, well, who better to do it in front of than Mrs. Michelle Obama? And I remember she really spoke into me. And she was just like, I want you to keep going. And she made it personal. She was like, what you're doing is so important, not just for sickle cell, but patients everywhere. And she talked to me about her father's struggle with MS and how he kind of like suffered in silence, and had he utilized his voice more, she felt like he still would have been alive. And so I'll just never forget her empowering me. And then Congressman John Lewis. Oh my goodness. I am a fearless networker. And so I just knew that he was like this incredible giant and had done so much. And so I remember just being like, I just want to talk to him. Like, and to my surprise, his chief of staff like emailed me and they were like, oh, yeah, like we've always wanted to do more work in sickle cell. Come on in. And I remember sitting there feeling like, I hope they don't think I'm wasting their time, because I didn't have an ask. I didn't have nothing. I was just like, I'm passionate about sickle cell. I want to raise awareness. And he was like, oh, well, we do this health fair in Atlanta. You should come. And he was like, look, I'm proud of you for being so fearless and reaching out. And what you said, he's like, a lot of people would have been intimidated, but you're here. You got to start somewhere. And he spoke into me and he was like, I see really great things in store for you. And just kind of, keep up. And there's been other people that I've met. And it's so funny because I literally used to keep a list of like influencers that I wanted to meet. And they were both on there. So it was really
oh my goodness. And now look at you. You are an influencer.
cool.
I tell you. Oh, that is amazing. And I never heard that story of how you met the former first lady. So that's wonderful. And they told it. They read it. Look about you doing amazing things in your future. So
Oh, yeah.
look, I'm so proud of you, like a mother.
Oh,
Um,
thank
do you want to take the question we see in the comments? I can show
you.
it.
Okay. Do you recommend adults with sickle cell to have an advocate of reproductive health in their caregiving circle? And then they list different. Yes. And thank you for this opportunity actually, because I didn't say this, but we've been working in collaboration with Johns Hopkins to develop some educational material on family planning. And one of the things they do is kind of list out who should be in your network, your support system.
Mhm.
And that's a good question, because I think, of course, like I think yes, like I said, we're trying to get reproductive health care to be implemented in standard of care. I'm trying to get pediatric hematologists to address this and not put it off on like an endocrinologist. Like, no, this is a shared responsibility.
Mhm.
I think particularly when you are talking about family planning, I mean, you need to involve everyone, genetic counselors. If you're thinking about pregnancy, high risk OB. And I know that, with the Black maternal health crisis, there's been more awareness around like doulas, midwives. I think that it takes everyone. So, yes, I think that that's something that my organization is going to be doing, is kind of putting together like a directory. So you'll be able to go based on your region, your state, and identify specialists,
Okay.
vetted specialists.
Yeah. So I mean, I'm learning so much, even from our conversation, and I've been jotting down some questions because there's some things that we have to ask on behalf of our son.
Yeah.
Um, concerning that. So I am so glad we had this conversation um, tonight. And Teonna, where can they follow you? Where can the listeners, those listening now, and those who are listening on the replay, hey y'all, how can they reach you?
Yes, so I am. My communications team will be so disappointed because I get on these interviews and I get asked that, and I can never remember my social media handles. I think on Instagram and Twitter, it's like Sickle Queen T. But the easiest thing for you to do is go to my organization's website,
Okay.
www.sicklecellred.org, and then like all of our socials, and you can find me on there. So that's the best way to do it. Is just go to our website. It's a really good website, y'all. I'm launching a bunch of changes on Friday. I just launched some more changes on Friday. I keep my graphic designer very busy, but it really just speaks to the fact that this work is ever evolving. Like every week, there's a new publication, there's a new event that we're invited to speak at, and so I'm really excited. And so yeah, please like follow the website because we really put a lot of time into that. And
Okay.
there's
Yeah.
constantly new updates.
Oh yeah, and I actually took a look. I have it bookmarked, so I can go back. You guys, please go and visit, and then you can actually I'll add all of her handles in the comment section at the end of this chat, so you'll have it'll be easy for you to go ahead and follow her on Facebook. If you're listening live on Facebook, and you guys on YouTube, um, you can go to the website www.sicklecellred.org and connect that way. Teonna, is there anything anything additional that you want to share with those who are listening?
Yeah. So something that's coming up. A couple of years ago, like I said, one of my now co-founders, Dr. Lydia Pecker, published a paper and is about to publish another paper
Right.
that shows hydroxyurea. We knew, right, that hydroxyurea could lower sperm count, but we're
Okay.
just starting to find out that hydroxyurea can impact ovarian reserve. There's a study being done, and as a result of that study, I have gotten frantic phone calls from women, from mothers, from grandmothers, finding out that hydroxyurea has made their child infertile. And I can tell you from experience. So, my hormone levels, my ovarian reserve, my egg quality is so low, not only because of the bone marrow transplant, but because of iron overload and hydroxyurea. And I understand because when I read that paper, I texted my hematologist and I was like, well, I hope you know I'm getting ready to throw this in the trash. I'm not going to stay on it. And I've had other people calling me saying that they've even been told to stop their hydroxyurea. And I just want to be responsible and make sure I tell everyone that as of right now, even though we do have all these advances in science, all these new therapies, hydroxyurea is still our best studied therapy, right? And some people it works for, some people it doesn't. For me, it has been a lifesaver. Like I said, I used to get acute chest syndrome every year, even twice a year sometimes, and I really don't get it anymore because of hydroxyurea. So what I just want to say is that we're not advocating, supporting, or endorsing getting off hydroxyurea or stopping any therapy that may impact fertility. What we are doing is using this data and these experiences to advocate for fertility preservation, for it to be accessible. And so I just want to put that out there that if anyone is worried about that, um, hydroxyurea is still, it's not something that you should just stop taking because of this, but just know that, me, my team, we are working overtime to make fertility preservation more accessible to this community and feel really good about the progress that we've already made. So I just wanted to put that out there that like there's hope, and I know that things can sound a little dismal, but there's hope, and I'm just excited that we're living in a time when we have options.
Right. Absolutely. And I'm glad you touched on that and clarified the stance. And a lot of times before during our chats, we want to let people know that the information that we're sharing is for their education and their awareness.
Yeah.
So if there's anything more specific to your health, you need to speak with your specialist or your
Mhm.
child specialist and work with your team. But at the same time, you have to be aware.
Yeah, you have to be able to make informed
Mhm.
decisions.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, ooh, this is a lot.
I have so much to unpack. Like literally, we just had our course developer on, and like in front of my team, and like every time somebody gets in front of my team, we have like an intern, and it's just so funny because people will go into it thinking they're just gonna have like a little discussion on reproductive health. How much could it really be? And then when you start getting into the weeds with us, you're like, oh my gosh. It's
It's a
definitely overwhelming. It's even overwhelming for me, I can say.
Yeah, and now just thinking, I have so many questions, but I'm now just thinking, you think about all of and we're so grateful for all of the research, all of the studies
Yeah.
um, for sickle cell disease. But now it's like, okay, how does it impact reproductive health? Or, how does it impact that? Um, those are a lot of good questions, but we're going to follow you and
Yeah.
stay informed and make sure we stay aware. And for those who are listening, this is yet another topic, and just to show um, the whole lives of a sickle cell warrior. And it's more than pain. It's the whole person. I mean, even I'm sure you have we're going to have discussions about how it impacts your mental health. I mean, it's about the whole person. So, and we have to stay on top of it so that we can thrive, so that our warriors can thrive and live. And us caregivers can be able to support the way we need to. Teonna, thank you. Thank you. Thank you for joining us this evening. I didn't want to keep you too long, but I want to let those who are listening now, and those who are listening on the replay, if you have any questions, put them in the comment section. I'll make sure she gets them, and she'll see them and respond to you. But again, make sure you go to the website and find out, bookmark it, save it, and find her on social media. You're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. I do know that because I follow you on our three.
And LinkedIn.
And LinkedIn, right. Don't forget about LinkedIn. And just follow her. Um,
Oh,
and,
there's one more question that
oh,
popped
there's a
up.
question. Okay. So,
For someone who is just looking into their reproductive health, either present or future, which should be some first steps? So I think it depends on the age. And like I said, this is a lifespan. It's a topic that requires a lifespan approach. So it's never too early to start having these conversations. For adults, I would say that it depends on where you are in your journey, right? Like if you're talking about having a family, then your first step should be seeking out a genetic counselor. I think
mhm,
we kind of underestimate them, and we just assume that they're going to talk to us about trait status and that's it. But they do so much more than that. So I think seeking out a genetic counselor is one. I think that um doing going out and just being informed, and so having conversations with your hematologist, even if they're not bringing it up, just be like, hey, what is sickle cell doing to my ovarian reserve, and just ask the questions. And if you're thinking about having children and all of that, then obviously seeking out a high risk OB, and really just making sure that you are an active participant in this and that you're prioritizing it. So I think the first step, honestly, is to just bring it up.
Okay. Well, thank you for that question, Brianna. Um, is there before I let you go? I know I was about to let you go, but
That's
before I let
okay. Mhm.
can you just say a message? I know we touched on issues that impact our male warriors, but can you just give them a reason why they should go to your website as well?
Yeah, definitely. And I really do appreciate the opportunity to address the males because I really, when you hear about reproductive health, obviously it resonates with a lot of people. They're thinking about women, but
Mhm.
people don't realize the implications that sickle cell has on our guys and what that can do to their egos. So, like priapism, we hear about that, but it's kind of a snapshot. You don't really understand the extensiveness and the severity and how painful that is and how painful the intervention is. And then erectile dysfunction, shape, all of these things that they are going through. And so I think to them, I think that, I've heard that it's embarrassing. I have had spouses, girlfriends reach out to me like, he doesn't talk about it. I don't know how to bring it up. So when I think about what I've heard from some of the guys on my team, I think the message is don't be embarrassed. Like, it's not your fault. It's nothing that you're doing wrong. This is the reality of sickle cell. But just, engage with us, teach us. I'm not a man, so I don't know what it's like. I can only speculate and go off of what I'm hearing. So to them, just know that like we're here for you. We want to support you and hold me accountable. Like if there's something you feel like you need and SC Red is not addressing it, like let us know. But that's the thing. Like just know that we're out here and we want to support you.
All right. So, um, stay in touch. Make sure you follow. A lot of the programs and initiatives she's mentioned involved involve both men and women. So you are a part of this conversation as well. So want to put that out there too. So seems like we got somebody else.
Oh, you froze. Oh yeah, no. Most men are too proud, and I think that it's not just on them. I think that yes, there's ego and there's pride involved, but I also think that we as a community have not historically given them a safe space to feel like they can open up about these things. And I remember somebody talking about it and taking a picture and all the comments were like hilarious. You know what I mean? Like there just hasn't been enough support for them. And so I'm hoping that when we launch our men's fireside chat, that's the first topic that my moderators wanted to get into was like the physical implications. So they are going to dive in. It's going to be an hour and a half long conversation on priapism, erectile dysfunction, and the barriers and what kind of support they need. So I'm hoping that these conversations give us an opportunity to really bring them in so that they can feel supported.
Oh, absolutely. This is great. And again, I'm so excited about being a part of this. I'm so excited that you joined us this evening to share more about your personal story as well as your organization. So thank you, Teonna. Thank you again. And thank you everybody for listening. Stay tuned for next week. Got another shout out. Thank you, Visha, for listening. Thank we will we will have Teonna back on because she's now she's in our village. So she will be back on. You'll see her at future Tuesday chats. Join us next week. You guys know we have a blood drive coming up on December 28th. So we will have representatives from the American Red Cross next Tuesday to talk to us and share about how we need to prepare our bodies to be able to give up that blood to donate for our warriors. Um, and just to let us know about their initiatives on behalf of sickle cell disease, which I'm so excited about that too. And I'm excited to be a part of those initiatives as well. Um, Teonna, I know we were going to shut down. We have one more comment we're going to grab before we
I'm
let.
here all night, you
Oh,
guys. Let me see.
because sometimes my Wi-Fi try to trip
I
sometimes, but
told you we
this
hold up.
I had a shipmate and friend who was diagnosed with lymphoma years ago, and he shared that he had his sperm frozen. He actually had a beautiful son who's probably over 20 years now.
That's great. And those are the kinds of stories, that I think inspire hope. And that's,
Mhm.
you'll be hearing during our storytelling series from someone who went through a bone marrow transplant with sickle cell and was able to have a child. We're in prayer that his wife is actually pregnant now after banking sperm. So these are all things that we hopefully are going to have funding for because even though the sperm banking is much cheaper than egg freezing, it's still, I mean, there's annual storage fees involved. And then if you're sick a lot, it's hard for you to store the amount that you want to store. So there's a lot going on there. But, that's definitely something that we're trying to do as well is like partner with these entities
Mhm.
that do that so that we can kind of negotiate down cost and then being able to pay whatever that rate is.
Right.
And so that's just a whole other thing about wanting to have options. And
Yeah.
hopefully, the work that we're doing is going to make that possible.
Oh, absolutely. I know it. I know. I know it will. And like you said in the beginning, we shouldn't have to choose. It shouldn't be either or.
Exactly.
So it should be an opportunity. Okay, Teonna, for the 15th time, thank you.
Well, wait, no, because like one thing that you just said about we shouldn't have to pick and choose and prioritize, I do have to do another shameless plug
Okay, go
because
for it.
I think that people might not be aware, and this just again speaks to the timing. We are fresh off of the release of the NASM report, and that is the National Academy's report. And it is a blueprint and strategic plan on sickle cell. And that's what it does. It starts off kind of going through every single barrier and everything that's wrong, but it doesn't end there. It then gives you this beautiful blueprint for how we right those wrongs and what the community deserves. And my mentor, my co-founder, my chief medical officer, Dr. Kim Smith Whitley, had a lot to do with that. And I was maybe on one or two of the panels, and so I published in that. But I just wanted to put that out there to the community as well. And if you go on our website, you can see the link to that because
Okay.
I think that that's very important. It's a very important piece in history that we're even trying to get Congress to hear because there's a lot of policy initiatives and all of that is in that NASM report. So this is what I'm saying when I tell you that things can be very dismal, but there's so much hope. There's so many things in the works. And I think that it's literally like a new day, a new era, and this is our time.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, absolutely. I mean, amazing things we're sharing tonight. So this is great. Anything else you want to share?
Um,
You
we
have
take donations, you guys.
to find out that information too on their website, you guys. I mean, that's how we get things done, and that's how we get things done. So,
But other than that, I think we've given everybody enough to chew on. So thank you again so much for having me. I think that what you're doing is amazing. You have a beautiful spirit. So I could really like talk to you all night, but I don't have to because we're gonna get so many opportunities to work together. And thank you for the platform.
okay, looking forward to it again. To everybody who's listening, thank you again. I'll see you next Tuesday on our next Tuesday chat. This is Brenda. Take care, y'all.